Hello and welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Andrew.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. Was that right? Did I do it right?
Oh, yeah.
I would say that sounded right. That is your name, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Now, are you Mike or Mike from Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar?
Very good question. I was the second one.
You were. There was actually an order.
Well, alphabetically, I'm the first, but as far as who owned most of the company, I was the second. I was lesser shareholder, which is not a complaint by any means. That's just the fact of the matter. So yeah.
So to clarify for everybody, this is Mike Adams, who, if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you may know from Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar, an excellent shop in Fremont, just north of the main part of Seattle. I guess that's the best way to say that still.
Mm-hmm.
It's where all the hipsters reside.
I take umbrage with that.
It didn't always be so hipstery. didn't used to be so hipstery.
What even is a hipster? If we're gonna... It's so nebulous and ill-defined. Anybody can be anything.
Hipster's really just the term that's hijacked the spirit of rock and roll, I think, the whole anti-mainstream.
Thanks, Mark Agnesi.
There have always been hipsters.
Always.
Oh, Mark.
I love him. He's actually one of my favorite people, and I haven't seen him in years, but he's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, different than the persona he puts on for the internet.
And he's a great salesman. I stopped in a Norm's once just to pop my head in, and within half an hour, he had me seriously considering spending a couple of grand and figuring out how I was going to explain that one.
That's his spiritual gift.
I was like, I don't even have a couple grand. How does he talk me into this? It was a great experience. He's a great guy. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I love good salespeople, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, Mike. So before the show started, you were telling us about some drink you had.
Oh yeah, well, I'm enjoying the work of the Belching Beaver Brewery. I think they're out of Southern California, although I'm not seeing it on the label. Oceanside, California. And I'm having their delicious peanut butter milk stout, which genuinely does taste like peanut butter and is great in beer floats if you're that kind. It's a dessert that I highly recommend.
I second that recommendation.
Have you guys ever had a boozy like root beer float?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hate root beer, something crazy, but it's funny. What? What I like about root beer floats is that the ice cream cuts the sweetness of the root beer. Because root beer is just so sweet. Ugh.
Yeah, but they're just like the pure taste of diabetes going straight down the gullet. I mean, you just can't beat that.
Oh, Wilford.
Wilford. Fixture of our lives, Wilford Brimley.
And what's that company that does that pedal that has him on it? Noise FX or something?
Noise Kick FX.
Noise Kick. Right?
Yeah, I've liked some of what I've seen from them, and I've really not liked some other things from them. But
you should talk. We should all talk to Joe Braga about. She had them do something custom for them. They have an enclosure that's like a cat shooting like laser beams out of its eyeballs. Yeah.
That's
and she
adorable.
had them make one that was like an auto wah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then you have to hit on one of the buttons to feed the kitty. And I don't know. The way she tells the story is special. Like, I love Joe, and like that creativity is why.
You can go ahead.
I was just gonna declare my love for Brian from Small Sound Big Sound and his embrace of custom enclosures. Having him do I can't say it, the F overdrive, the FUTK overdrive. Having him doing one of those with Ralphie from A Christmas Story on the front of it for me, and I had him adjust the name so it just says F dash dash dash, and it's one of the best pedals I've ever owned. It's still the thing that doesn't leave my board, but like just the fact that I could pay him a little extra and he would do something really stupid for me just made me so happy.
Yeah, I love
So,
that. The
yeah,
fudge
exactly.
overdrive. Yes.
Only I didn't say.
Only I didn't say fudge.
Oh, that's good stuff. Before we get too far away from that belching beaver, I have a very brief story
Yes,
about
please.
that peanut butter milk stout and my first encounter with it. A good friend of mine lives down in the OC. My friend James, he was telling me about this peanut butter milk stout, and I was just thinking that sounds really strange. He's like, no, I've got something special that I do with it, and he brought it over with the Lindemans Framboise, which is a raspberry Belgian beer, and we mixed it together, and it tasted like PB&J in a beer.
Oh.
It was phenomenal. I've done that a couple of times since, and yeah, every time if I'm walking around Bevmo looking for something special, that's definitely.
Oh, that sounds so good.
It's so good.
That's incredible. One of my favorite tricks is to go to Five Guys and get a burger, but the
Ooh,
real reason I'm there, well, I love their burgers, but the real reason I'm there
fries.
is the Coke Freestyle machine.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and
Yep.
I always used to mix orange flavored Coke and vanilla flavored Coke, and it came out just like an orange creamsicle.
That sounds nice.
Um,
They have those at Taco
man.
Time now.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
No, the
I'm
Pacific
spoiled. I have
Northwest
that in
people.
my cafeteria at work.
What?
Yeah.
First of all, cool that your work has a cafeteria.
Yeah, mine does not.
Mine technically does since I work from home.
Same.
So.
My
Oh,
cafeteria
I'd rather work from
is
home.
limited by my husband's Costco excursions.
And it's stocked with my favorite foods.
It's like, why do I have 500 packets of ginger turmeric tea? Why?
Because it's good.
Oh, it's so many packets of the same tea, dude. Why do I have 100 Kodiak cake waffles in my freezer right now?
Oh my gosh.
Costco.
I had the realization like a couple of months ago. I was like, how have I accumulated like 5 boxes of Kodiak cakes? I was like looking through the pantry because I live in a small little apartment and I'm like running out of space. Like, where did all the space go? And I realized an entire shelf is Kodiak cakes.
Are you doomsday prepping? What are you doing?
Just forget that you buy it and buy more.
Oh,
I just want you to know that as soon as you said Doomsday, all I could see was Alex, what's his face from oh goodness, he's the Water's Turning the Frogs gay guy.
What?
Oh, that horrible person.
Yeah.
Whose name I shan't speak.
Oh, come on.
I said it.
I'm gonna bleep that, Andrew.
Do it. Bleep. His name does not deserve to be spoken on the air.
If ever there were anything bleep were
but every time I hear Doomsday, I hear his name or I hear another Fox News host name who is very strange. And like so, yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Unholy box of pants faucets. I hate him.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what I associate with Doomsday. Does that make me weird?
No.
I mean, his presence merely heralds the impending demise of society. It's okay.
He's one of those.
It's a logical thing.
Yeah.
I also associate him with alcoholism, just by looking at him. But
who I'm also gonna bleep.
Everybody listening to this is just going to want to know who we're talking about.
They can fill in the blanks. They can make assumptions about our political affiliations.
And PJW, that guy's out of his mind. I'm not going to say his.
Oh no, I know who you're talking about.
Oh, good. You get it. The acronym.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately,
I'm going to go back to alcohol. I'm drinking. I bought to get my Amazon Prime delivery minimum. I bought a bottle of Skinny Girl margarita. It's fine. What is that? It's like a margarita in a bottle. It's kind of like, it's almost like a wine cooler. It's fine.
I love wine coolers.
Me too.
Yeah.
Costco has my favorite wine cooler margarita. It's just the Kirkland brand.
I have never had them. Regretfully.
It's fine.
I'm gonna have to get on that. I'm sorry. I want to meet you. I want to play with you in this space, but I have no context.
It pairs well with Trader Joe's tamales.
Now those I do love.
Ooh yeah, and that elote.
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
They also have the best frozen mac and cheese I have ever eaten in my life.
That I believe.
They have the best pot pies I've ever eaten in my life. That's what I had for dinner.
Welcome to our Trader Joe's fan cast.
It was the steak and stout pie.
Oh, that sounds nice. My ex-boyfriend always liked to retell a joke that his friend told, and the entirety of the joke was chicken pot pie, my 3 favorite things. That's not bad.
I should laugh.
It reminds me of that SNL Sean Connery joke. Celebrity Jeopardy.
Oh yeah.
The answer is cocktails. My 2 favorite words.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Dishes.
Dishes who?
Dishes Sean Connery.
This is Sean Connery.
I feel like the accent was backwards on that one. Oh, this is Sean Connery.
No, this is Sean Connery.
All right, friends.
Weird. Is that all that getting cut out?
No.
No.
That's the best part.
No. I guess I'm the last one to go for the drinks. My dad was just in town, and we picked up a British beer. Fun fact: when I was a kid, I lived in England, and I didn't drink beer at that time because I was a little kid. But my dad did, and since I've become of age, my dad's shared some of his favorite brews from England with me, and so that's what we did this last visit. We picked up an Old Speckled Hen, which there's very little hop to. It's almost entirely malt, when it's nitro.
That is the most British name I've ever heard.
That is.
It is, yeah. So it's a very delightful, smooth, creamy, very appley, kind of delightful. Yeah, it's a beer.
It's a beer. All beer kind of tastes the same to me. I'm sorry.
Bless your soul. My problem is I'm not a cheap drunk, and not because of anything to do with being a heavyweight, because I'm not. It's because I'm a snob.
No, same here.
Yeah,
I can't drink anything that's like a Bud or a
Natty Light
Miller or
I'm gonna get
any of those.
I'm gonna get thrown out of Seattle for this, but I can't.
Save yourself.
I can't do Rainier.
Oh, you did it.
I can't do it.
Oh my
Same
god.
here. I don't live there anymore. I don't have to pretend. I hate that stuff.
It's just it tastes like soggy Cheerios.
I have so much Rainier merch. You have no idea. I have a dope Rainier rain jacket and several shirts and stuff. Ugh.
I mean, the logo is cool. I'll give it that. I like driving down the 5, which I will continue to call it the 5.
Oh, son of a.
Yeah.
The
I-5.
No,
it's the 5.
No, it's the 5.
Oh my god.
You, California.
That's every episode. Someone has to do that voice. It's never Andrew.
I know. I heard that the last episode, so that's why I did that. I'm trying to keep the joy alive.
Right on, man.
Right on, dude. All right.
That's
excellent.
Tubular.
Now, boys.
Nobody talks like Ninja Turtles down here. It's so disappointing.
Oh, man.
It's depressing walking around here, and no one's like, Cowabunga, how's it going, brah? No one. Nobody. It's the worst.
Man, that'd be like if you went to Minnesota and didn't hear anybody talking that accent.
I went to that state once and ordered a large Coke, and they said, no, we only serve mini sodas.
Oh, that's very good.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
I
that
just
was
now
good.
got that.
That's the kind of clean humor that I really appreciate.
All right, John Worster.
Oh man, you ever try stand up? You could really go toe to toe with the likes of who's a clean comedian.
Jim Gaffigan.
No, he's not.
Is he clean?
No, he's not.
He's mostly clean. I don't know. I watched his last stand-up special, and there's a couple of cringy moments where he pushed the boundaries of what I think is okay for a white guy to say on the topic of race.
Boy, oh boy. Jim, never thought I'd be in the year 2019 and hear about Jim Gaffigan pushing boundaries.
Right.
The same guy who had a whole thing about Hot Pockets is now the guy we go to. Oh, I want to hear his thoughts on race. Oh, that's what I want from Jim Gaffigan. Okay. I mean, good for him for expanding his thing that he does.
It was relatively mild. I've heard, I mean, there's much worse out of other stand-up comedians. It's just enough to make me go, is that okay? I don't know. How do I feel about that? I don't know.
Oh, well, so I was thinking the other day, racism seems pretty bad, huh? Was it that? Was it like that?
No, he was talking about he's talking about a family trip they took to Asia.
Yeah, I'll pass on that.
I don't even have to imagine how off that probably was.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, my wife's Asian American. We were both laughing pretty hard. But we were also like doing the whole look at each other going like, wait, is this funny? But it's funny, but is it? Are we okay with laughing? I don't know. We kind of just laughed it through, and I don't think we've talked about it since.
See, that part's even funnier is when you have to look at each other and go like, can I laugh?
Is this okay?
Is this funny?
It's everyone's like in the room and they're all just looking at your wife like, is this funny?
Oh man. I have this story. So I have Tourette's syndrome, which is a very mild case that usually manifests as like motor tics. And most of my friends know, because if I have a motor tic, everyone's like, why are you shaking? That's weird. So anyway, I was in a group of people and it was movie night and we were like, let's watch What About Bob? And there's like a good 4-minute chunk of that movie that's like just screaming swear words. And everybody in the room slowly turned around to look at me and they're like,
oh my God.
Is this funny? Can I laugh at this? Is that okay if I laugh at this? And I didn't oblige them. I just sat there because that was funnier to me.
Just stood there stone face and let them all like just turn cold sweat.
Yeah.
They're trying not to laugh.
If he's smiling, it's okay. We can laugh then. Is he smiling? I can't tell if he's smiling. It's great.
That's a little.
It's great.
Wait, no, it's a frown. It's a frown. It's a frown. Hold down. Hold your fire. Hold your fire.
Oh my God.
Jim, don't laugh.
Don't laugh at Bill Murray.
I thought we were friends.
Yeah.
Baby step.
Yeah.
Baby
wielding power, huh?
Yeah. That's kind of like, it reminds me of how in gear groups, I get tagged in everything that anyone thinks might be sexist. Just like people I hear like, someone said something sexist, Emily, get up. I'm like, stop tagging me in this. Yes, I've seen.
Oh, so they're calling on you to sick them and not to like confirm whether or not it is or is not sexist.
I don't know.
I think it's the sick 'em thing, but that doesn't. I'm not sure how much.
Yeah, sometimes it's literally tagging my name. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do with this.
I get that a lot, but for guitar problems, like there's a guy a couple weeks ago who tagged me in a picture of a guitar that clearly needed a setup, and this dude was like, oh, I can't wait to hear what this guy's gonna have to say. Mike's gonna like tear you apart. You need to take care of your equipment. And I just like slowly backed away. I was like, I don't want to be in this scene.
I would like to remove myself from this conversation.
Yep. Untag myself from the photo. That's my favorite thing on Instagram.
And Facebook too. I've untagged myself in stories. Like, man, bye.
Nope.
You
know what I do love about Facebook is that feature that what is it? What's the time thing where it like shows you a post from 10 years ago and then you get to go, oh, I'm gonna delete that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even do that. I don't know how people start that. I wouldn't know how to start that. I just don't do it. Every once in a while my husband would be like, oh look, and he'll show me some picture of like the other day I think it was we were high-fiving above a sign that said parking 5. Like, great. I do remember that. But that's not something to commemorate.
Once again, that's a pretty wholesome joke though, and I really appreciate
that's my husband. My husband's a wholesome joke. And a whole snack.
He's a total snack.
Well, I'm just gonna back away slowly. And I'm gonna untag myself from this thread.
You'd like to remove yourself from this narrative.
You're a co-host. You're not allowed.
You have a hat.
Yeah, I do have a hat. I've been wearing the hat.
Nice. I got my new hat, and I got that I made myself a Get Offset tank top just so I could wear it to the gym.
Oh, I saw your gym selfies earlier. That's a good move.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
I would also do that, but the slight problem is I don't go to the gym.
You should come to my boxing
So
gym sometime. The first hit's free,
That's a great
isn't
promotion.
it? That's what caught me.
that's really inviting.
This week's episode is
Yeah,
sponsored
I'll
by
be
Title Boxing in Greenwood. Come say hi to Natalie.
I'll
Oh,
I'll
you
be
still
there
live
in
Greenwood.
2023.
Oh, I miss
It's the-
Greenwood.
Oh, Greenwood's it's great. I like Greenwood.
I like visiting up there. I don't know if I could live on that side of Seattle.
Why?
Where are you, Andrew?
I'm in Issaquah
Oh, I've been
area,
there
like
so many
way on
times.
the other side.
You've
Although
got
by
that
the
great
time
theater.
sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, I said you've got that great theater.
I do.
Yeah.
So I'm over in that neck of the woods, the specific part of which I will not share, but I'm in a neck and there are potentially woods.
Narrows
So
it down nicely.
it does, yeah. It's a nice area. It's quiet. It's close enough for me to get to the city. The 90 is almost never terribly backed up, so I've got a straight shot to Seattle most of the time.
Every time you do that, I can feel like these cringes radiating from Emily's little like line that tells me that she's speaking on this app. This is amazing.
My coworkers give me a lot of trouble for that because a bunch of them are native.
I'm going to give you a pass because even when I moved to the South, I refused to call all pop Coke. I just call it pop, and they'd be like, "You either call it Coke or soda." I'm like, "It's pop."
It's soda.
No, it's pop.
I have very strong feelings about this subject, which I might levy if the podcast would allow me to. And just briefly, I'll narrow it down for you. Not all soda is Coke. Let's just put that to bed. I get the colloquialism. I understand that, but Pepsi is not Coke. Not at all. It has that subtle hint of lime that just grosses me
The
out.
Pepsi?
Can't
Well,
do
it just makes it that much more difficult for them to get my order right because if I order a Coke and a Coke, I end up getting 2 sodas. But if I order a soda and a line of Coke, then I get what I want. So
You make me edit out the F word, but you just made a cocaine joke?
That's amazing.
Duh. You know how much I had to edit that last episode? I had to edit it 3 times because every time I'd be like, I think I got all the swears, but I just gloss over them in my brain. It's like auto-correcting. It's like, oh yeah, that's just how people talk.
you should have had me do it. Goody good Christian me who would never swear.
Never
Never
ever.
swear.
Never. I've never in my life. In fact, every time I hear one, I go to purgatory for another year.
Every time I hear a swear, I ball myself up like a hedgehog and roll off into the distance.
Because that's how life
It
works.
is. All right. Shall we get into the topic, friends?
Yeah.
We shall. Do we want to talk about sponsors real quick?
Do we?
Do we? We probably
Talk
should.
about sponsors then, Andrew.
Well, do you want to talk about the offset special real quick? And the sponsors we've got for that?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what you're talking about.
The pink offset build you just did with Lambertones and Gunstreak.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Yes. My pawn.
It's not even my
It's a
guitar.
pawn shop special.
That's what it was.
So
is it? I swear it was called the offset special.
I think it's called the Fender. It might be. I don't care. But I did not know what you're talking about. I'm so sorry.
It's the pink one with the green knobs.
Yes. So I just want to shout out to Lambertones this past weekend. I took my pink Fender pawn shop offset special. Actually, I didn't take it anywhere. I took it to my home It was already at my home. I took it upstairs to my soldering table, and I swapped out the pickups. It had some Fender Jazzmaster sized humbuckers in there. I think they're called the JMHBs or something. And they sounded fine
Mm-hmm.
to my ears. But when I found out Curtis was coming out with his own cremas in a Jazzmaster size, I knew I had to have them. So I bought some, and I reached out to Sean from Gun Street Wiring because I was not about to wire that from scratch myself. And he worked with me to create this harness that it's pretty simple, but it also has on the tone a push pull pot, and it kind of has like the Jaguar bright on the pull. And it was so easy. The time lapse video of the assembly, I think, is maybe 34 seconds, and it felt really fast. And I even had some questions, and I messaged Sean about them, and he got back to me super quickly, just clarifying one thing. But he changed a project that would have had maybe 20 solder points to something that had like maybe 5 tops. So it made it so easy to. So shout out to Curtis. The pickups sound fantastic. And shout out to Sean at Gun Street Wiring. I'm never doing another wiring job without them because I just value my time, and he's going to do it better than I could. Like I can't believe it's the first time I've ever wired up pickups and had it work pretty much the first time.
Yeah, my dad was just in town, like I mentioned before, and he's got a GNL made in Korea Telecaster, whatever. I forget what GNL calls it. I'm just gonna call it a Tele because that's what it is. And it had the import parts in it, and it just all the cheap little wiring. And so we ripped out all of it entirely and started from scratch. And that took me the better part of an afternoon with my mediocre soldering skills and trying to get. There's a couple of kinks I had to work out. It just ended up turning into way more time planned, which was fine for that specific thing because it was a bonding experience. But good gravy, did that give me a headache?
Mm.
I'm not a professional.
But some people here are professionals.
That's true, and to them, I applaud them. But
What?
the next time I open up a guitar, there will be a wiring harness going inside it if my budget has anything to say
Yeah,
about
and
it.
if you do the Curtis ones, I know for the cremas, he was selling also pre-wired pick guards, so literally all you would have to do is change the screws.
Nice.
Right. I'm holding out for Curtis to do his Jazz Master
Oh,
pickups because he's supposed to
yeah.
be doing this. He's supposed to be making a silent set,
Oh,
according to his
interesting.
website
Wow.
and according
Mm,
to conversations I've had with
Nice.
him.
that
And
could be really
Yeah.
cool.
if there anything is fairy dust magically good as the cremas I've got, cremas,
Crema.
it's cremas.
Crema. Say it with
Crema.
us, listeners.
It's a
Crema. You're
word.
both saying it
Crema.
wrong. It's crema.
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 Yeah, if they're anything nearly that good, then it's going to be a huge improvement over my stock made in Mexico
Yeah,
pickups.
probably.
So, yeah,
I just want to say that even though I might be a professional, I want to say that anything that like takes stress out of your like a guitar maintenance routine is
Yeah.
great, and you should never have to apologize for buying a pre-wired harness. I've done it before, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful, especially when you can like really get in there and kind of like think about tweaking like your pot values, things like that. Like that's
Yeah.
great. So why not?
I just feel like
Yeah.
I am a busy person with many jobs and many hats. And anything that like can save me some time, like I want to have those
Hmm.
personal relationships with my instruments. I don't want to just drop it off somewhere, but I also don't have 4 hours in an afternoon to devote to troubleshooting because like that's complicated stuff and things can go wrong, and I don't like swearing at myself. Well, I love swearing, just not at me. Yeah.
Yeah, be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. Gotta be good to yourself.
Self-care. It's my version of
Yeah,
self-care.
it's not spending 4 hours wiring a
No.
harness. I get
Yeah.
that. Boy, oh boy.
Any other sponsors,
all right.
Andrew?
No, I think that's all we've got for this episode. If you're listening to this and you want to sponsor, hit us up. We are always looking for support. It's the sponsors who make this podcast
And
possible. So we
yeah.
appreciate that.
Speaking of self-care, this is the first time we've done this, and maybe we probably should have done it in the past, but I want to issue a content warning. Um, Listen, guys, I know people like to make jokes in gear groups about content warnings and being triggered, but it's a real thing. And it needs to be handled with some respect. So, if you have been in any situation that involves abuse of any kind, and that's not something you really are interested in revisiting, if you want to turn off, we totally understand. If you want to keep listening, that's great. We just want to let you know that's a topic that's going to be um, delved into some in this episode. So,
And just to piggyback on that, it's that's like a legitimate like term, like when someone's experienced trauma. That's like a thing. Triggers are an actual
yeah,
legitimate medical thing. This isn't some sort of a snowflake. Oh, I'm triggered. Like no, this is
it's
real,
it's
folks.
it's
So
real. I know people love that meme about the trigger girl, but it's a real thing. So, but I just kind of want to talk about this in terms of, I know we've talked about Ryan Adams already, but in terms of that. So sometimes when we hear these stories, like with Ryan Adams, they bring back these old memories and feelings that we just to protect ourselves um, kind of push aside. And that's why things like Me Too happened as a movement. People saw stories that they then relate back to things that happened to them, especially things that you didn't feel able to confront at the time. Maybe someone told you to get over it, or thought it was, or you thought it was normal, even though it made you feel bad. And then somewhere along the way, someone tells you, that's not right, and you're validated, your feelings are valid, because I think so often people are told to just get over it, um, but that doesn't mean it's okay, and that's what's frustrating to me. Quick tangent about the kind of quote in my day argument. Just because you had to live with terrible things in your day doesn't mean it was right. And it doesn't mean that everyone should have to. Um, I think that we should want to make the world a better and safer place for everyone, where everyone should feel safe.
yeah, that's definitely something I am all
Yeah.
about. So
Here, here.
Yeah.
dilly dilly.
Oh no. Um, So,
Sorry.
to kind of get just into the topic a little bit, Mike, a couple weeks ago, I guess on Valentine's Day or whatever this Ryan Adams thing came out, you
That was
tweeted
on
something like that.
Valentine's Day?
Yeah, it was. I know. I remember that day. Um, do you mind if I just read the tweet?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you tweeted, it caught our eye, and we reached out to you because of this. Someone whom I respected deeply was abusive to me many years ago, and it made me never want to write another song again. And for 7 years, I didn't. People like that should never be successful. Music is for everyone, not to be withheld for some illicit purpose. And I just want to say really quickly, that's a very brave thing to tweet out. I think it's important to note that abusive relationships can happen to anybody, not just women. It happens, all kinds of abuse can happen to anybody, and anyone can be a perpetrator. So, Mike, we wanted to invite you onto the show to share whatever part of that story you're comfortable with, um, to hopefully give some other people maybe, ah, gosh, just for lack of a better word, like a feeling of um, validation, maybe, like people who can relate can maybe take something from it. And um I don't know, I just guess I'll kick it back to you if that's all right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so really in the wake of everything having to do with Ryan Adams, the abuse that was suffered by others from him, Those stories, man, they brought back some memories. Those stories, everything I heard from Phoebe Bridgers, or I think there was a statement put out by even Liz Fair that didn't go into too much detail, but was saying, yes, I believe this because I've experienced it. These kinds of things, my heart went out to them, and it gave me pause because I felt like I had been there before as well. And obviously, not to make it all about me, I really don't want to pretend that I have the same exact experience, and I'm very aware that like even telling this story could be seen as like, oh, he just wants to get in on the great action by people who don't get that this is a real horrible thing that makes music not fun for people. And so yeah, I guess I'll just start. I don't really need to couch it this heavily. It's just I don't know. It's been tough to get to the place where I even feel like I can talk about this. I remember it probably took, I think, a whole week for me to say yes to your request to be on the show, and it really just took that whole time to figure this out.
We appreciate you coming on.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
I don't know if it was. I can't remember. I wasn't counting the days. We were happy to wait and give you the space that you needed to make that decision. So
Yeah.
Appreciate that, and also thanks for giving me the safety to tell this story. I have been so impressed with how the two of you have handled this subject since Valentine's Day. I've listened to the subsequent episodes and just felt like the thing that stands out to me about your podcast is that you're not just talking about gear, you're talking about the human element in the culture, and you haven't strayed away from addressing these kinds of things, and it's so refreshing, and so yeah, to say yes to you was kind of me vocalizing my trust. So thank you so much.
we
Man,
appreciate that.
thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just try to tell the story as best I can. Yeah, so I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I didn't really leave the state very much until I was about 21. It was 2003. I decided I was going to go to school, college, actually, to be more precise. In the intervening years between high school and college, I had played a lot of music, done a lot of punk shows, a lot of emo. We were like big fans of Jimmy Eat World and that kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of music, touring, all that stuff. Music was always the thing, but college was just what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I was the first person in my family to have the opportunity to go to college, and so I took it.
Oh wow.
Um, so yeah, my parents were very proud about that because their boy had finally given up on his designs of being a famous rock star and settled down and got an education. And they were made doubly proud by my choice of going to a Christian school in Fresno, California, because we were very religious. I didn't want to be a pastor or anything. I don't know. I just found like theology very interesting, and so I went.
You went to school for theology?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's
Oh,
weird,
so did
right?
I.
Oh, hey,
Huh.
hi. Not
Yeah.
so weird. This is like the only time it hasn't been weird.
No,
Um,
what school's in Fresno? I actually don't know if I know that school.
the thing I went to was this extension of Patton University, and Patton University is in Oakland.
Right. Yep.
Our like what like remote campus is now defunct. I think it's gone at this point. But it was this small, ultra small, like 40 people kind of school with
Yeah,
like
one of my professors. I went to Azusa Pacific University,
ah.
and one of my professors there used to teach for Patton.
Oh wow, jeez. Who
Yeah,
was that
the
professor?
Oakland. Greg Motor.
I
He
don't know
taught
that
the
name.
Oakland campus.
Weird. That's such a weird
Yeah.
connection to have. But yeah, I went for theology, and I like I said, I didn't want to be a pastor. I just found theology interesting, and so I went. I got pretty great grades, but the whole time, really, music was just the passion for me, and I don't know. Like I said, didn't want to be a pastor, but I loved guitar, and that's what I wanted to do. So after I don't know, a month or two at school, I decided that I wanted to get plugged into the Fresno scene, and I just started going to every single show that I'd heard about. Some of them were in coffee shops, some of them were like open mic nights, or thrown together events in like a, a church all-purpose room or something. Um, and after a while, I just started kind of doing what I could to get noticed in the scene, like you're supposed to. I would go and attend every show, stand up front, support the bands. I remember there was a band that came through. Um, and so they didn't have any merch, but I still gave them $20. I was like, I know gas is expensive, guys. It's cool. Take it. All in the hopes of like becoming a part of the scene. I was even like changing strings for people that were on stage and their strings broke, which I still do sometimes when I have to, but I haven't had to intervene in a while. I've just been able to enjoy the shows, and that's been great. But then, yeah, I was just making myself useful. And so after a while, felt like I was getting plugged in, and I started asking around. I was like, who do I talk to start playing? Who's the person that I go to get really plugged in, book shows, all that stuff? And everybody told me the same name. And I won't say her whole name, but I'm just going to call her Kay. Kay was this very interesting singer-songwriter. She wasn't just well connected. It was like she was the focal point of the whole scene. Everybody knew her. It felt like she was in charge in a lot of ways of the scene. Like, felt like shows just didn't happen without Kay being involved somehow. Um, that's how much like power she seemed to have in the Fresno scene from my short time living in Fresno. And so I had to seek her out. I had to find out, how could I get plugged in? How could I start playing? And so eventually I stumbled upon her. Saw she was playing a show. She was this singer-songwriter, played acoustic guitar and sang, and she was really good. She wrote beautiful songs, and I loved everything she did. Um, and I introduced myself after a show. I was like, your set is amazing. I'm a guitar player too. I'm looking for people to play with, and I hear you're the person to talk to. Um, Tell me what's the scene like? What's going on? Can you help me out? Um, and she was like, yeah, I'll help you out, and introduced me to some people. I played a couple shows here and there that she didn't come to, but who could blame her? Nobody knew who I was. But over the course of like a month or two, I just kept talking to her, sent her a text message, talk to her on the phone, and see like, hey, what's going on? Is there a show this weekend? What can we do? Um, and it seemed pretty great. She didn't like, open the floodgates of opportunity for me or anything, but she talked to me, and I was like, all right, that's good. She's the person to talk to. Great. And eventually, man, over the course of so many conversations, she finally like relented and went, all right, let's get you plugged in. What's your sound? And at this point, it was past Christmas break. And during Christmas break, I went home and recorded a 5-song, 6-song demo CD at my friend's house. And he had like some good stuff. So it sounded all right. And I was really proud of it. It was me and an acoustic guitar singing at the time. Like, admittedly, it was a little bit dashboard confessional kind of stuff, a little bit more rhythmic. I always liked slightly, I want to say harder sounds, but what I mean is just more rhythmically uh, emphasized. I don't know. Anyway, so I proudly presented her. I was like, yes, this is my sound. This is what I sound like right now. Like a little kid with a macaroni picture. I was like, here's my great thing. I would love to hear what you think of it. Please let me play a show with you. And she was like, yeah, all right, cool, whatever. Call me in a week and I'll tell you what I think. And so I call her in a week. It was the next Wednesday. And she says, yeah, meet me at Starbucks. Uh, and so I go to Starbucks and I meet up with her. And I bring a buddy because the school I was going to had this archaic third-party rule where you couldn't be alone with a member of the opposite sex unless there was someone else there to observe.
What?
Super weird. And that's a whole other thing.
I mean, I went to a Christian
Yay.
university, and that That wasn't the thing there, thankfully.
Oh, I guess neither of you are hardcore.
That
God.
sounds like the church I grew up in when
Yeah.
where I grew up in California.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe there's another podcast in there.
Yeah,
But
it's possible. But
but
that's a concept I'm very well familiar with.
yeah, so we sit down at this table at Starbucks. I've got my Frappuccino. I didn't drink coffee at the time. It was only those very sugary iced mocha drinks. I
It's a
love those.
milkshake, let's be honest.
It's great. Adult milkshake. It felt
They're
so
great.
regal. Um, anyway, so she sits down. I'm there with my buddy. We chit chat for a while, and she goes, "All right, here's what I think of your music." And I swallowed uh, instinctively because I could feel that there was a wave coming to me. And she looks me dead in the eye and she says, "I was over you the second I hit play." Um,
Oh.
wow, it's really hard to think about this. She said, her first question to me was, "Do you read books?" And I said, "Yeah, I read books." And she goes, "It doesn't sound like you read books because you sound like an idiot.
Oh,
You don't sound
jeez.
smart. Your lyrics are stupid. You don't have a worldview. It's like it's like you're made of cardboard," I think was what she said.
Man.
Uh, she said she said, "God, it was so boring. Your guitar player sucks." And I was like, "Oh, that's me." She goes, "Well, your playing is crap. Your chords aren't intelligent. They all go the same place. I would never play a show with you. I would be embarrassed to be on stage with you. Um,
Whoa.
you shouldn't write songs. You're terrible. You don't ever write a song again because you're shit."
Wow.
Uh, and man, it's really hard to even say that. I I don't remember the rest of that night. I remember that my buddy was still with me. I think she left first. And I just sat there kind of stunned for a long time. I don't even know how long. I don't remember driving back to campus. It's kind of like in war movies when like a grenade goes off close to a
Mhm.
protagonist and there's that ear ringing, people yelling, and
Yeah.
there's dirt everywhere. It felt like that for a long time. And all I could really think about was you shouldn't write songs. I just kept hearing it over and over in my head, and I didn't for like 7, 8 years. I walked away from it,
Just because
and
one person was, and that just shows the impact that one person can have with just unbridled cruelty for no
yeah.
reason.
And the thing is that I mean, yeah, it is just one person, and I'm sure that someone listening would be like, "Oh, it's just who cares what she thinks? She's just a person." Uh, but the way I was raised, I mean, nothing happens in a vacuum, and so I was like raised in this ultra religious family. Um, growing up, I had these like learning disabilities that were never diagnosed or addressed. Uh, and school was really tough for me, and dad, my dad thought that I was stupid. I remember clearly how many times we were driving, either to church or a restaurant or whatever, and he would hold his right arm up with his watch on it, and he would say, "Son, what time is it?" And it just looked like mush to me. Just like when I look
Mhm.
at music now, it all kind of runs together. Written out sheet music, I can't read it.
Yeah.
Same thing with his watch, and he would hold it up, and he would cover, or he would have mom cover the digital display on the dashboard, and I'd be forced to be like, "I don't know, Dad," and he would turn to my mom and say, "Our son's an idiot."
Oh.
And yeah, learning guitar. I mean, family members would tell me I sounded terrible. My aunt used to call me a freak and tell me that God couldn't use someone like me. I was bullied mercilessly throughout school. Like, even my phys ed teacher would point me out and use me as an example to the class. He would say, "Don't end up like Adams, everybody." And so, like, depression was a thing for me. But, like, growing up in a religious family, like, you can't get medicated, you can't get therapy because God doesn't make mistakes. And so when I left for college, like, how people go to college and they're like, great, I can figure out who I am, I can be myself. For me, I just thought I was getting away from all that, and there it was waiting for me.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, so that sucked. And when she told me not to write anymore, like, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I just didn't.
yeah.
I used to write songs all the time, and were they good? Like, the majority weren't. Like, let's not pretend. I wasn't Elton John, like, cranking out hit after hit, but, like, it made me happy, and it was something I felt like I was pretty good at. And I know I had some good ones. I know I had some stuff to say.
Yeah.
And I could have improved, but she didn't really leave space for that. It was this condemnation that you're done. You're never going to be better. You may as well give up. And I
Well,
did.
especially if she ran the scene in that town and that's where you're going to school. It's not like you're just going to transfer schools to a new town and try to start
Yeah.
over. Right? That's just, yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, someone who had power and wielded it that way. Yeah, so when I heard the Ryan Adams news, and I heard about I don't remember her name, but the woman who never played a show again,
Never played another gig. Yeah.
that absolutely broke my heart, and I was furious.
Yeah.
Because that happened to me, and that's not what music is. Music, like I said in the tweet, is for everybody. It is supposed to be this wonderful communal thing where people get together and create. I remember the first time I heard Jeff Tweedy's Sunken Treasure, or watched the DVD, and he has that bit where he goes off on people in the audience talking because you're supposed to be together and experience like that. That is the best part of music.
Yeah.
That's everything to me.
I love that. I love that part.
Yeah,
What?
same here.
You can't hear me? It's because you're talking.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, but this happens. But gatekeeping happens. It doesn't matter who is the gatekeeper. This kind of thing, that's not a scene. That's a death
Man,
sentence.
and it doesn't even matter what the gate is. I mean, did you hear Ryan Adams' defense that he's like, I can't make or break a career? Well, does it matter? I mean, like there was
Yeah,
someone in my life who, he was recording my music and he just kept putting it off and he just kept putting it off and taking off more people's projects. So when I begged him, like, give me back the recordings so I can give them to someone else so that someone else can finish them, he wouldn't. He just kept them, and he didn't even finish them until I met my husband, until I stopped giving him what he wanted, attention and other things. And I didn't write for years because if I think I said this either on the last episode or on Let Him Hear with Adam Rohr, if the person who's supposed to love me doesn't give a shit about my music, then who will?
yeah.
So that combined with some other things, like I kind of minored in songwriting in college, and it was kind of a commercial songwriting program, and I'm not a commercial songwriter. That was maybe less of an issue, but still kind of one of those lingering things. I know that program broke a lot of people who made music, but just this experience that I had, and I always tell people, like, don't let your boyfriend produce your music. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
I can go wrong.
For me, music is just like 100% on board with the whole music is supposed to be this communal thing because it's very much about a to know and to be known kind of aspect of it. I think that's just basic human nature. That's something that we all desire, is to know and to be known. That's just a
to be
very
heard.
right.
Yeah.
And for that to get mean, that's just so basic, and I really, for me, as someone who still claims Christ, that just really sucks to hear that that's what you're trying to get away from, and then that's what you're followed up with, and just the inability, the seeming inability to escape
Yeah.
that, the the and escape the ignorance of your worth, because I mean, you're obviously worth, you're great. I mean, um
You're a great player.
everybody's
Yeah.
great,
Thanks, guys.
but that I'm stumbling over my words. It's such a hard
I'll just
topic to
say that
talk
even
about.
if someone's not
That
great, that kind of language is never acceptable. Like, if you, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
believe necessarily that you have nothing nice to say, you shouldn't say anything, but cruelty, with, it's not okay. It's just not. Like, I just feel like even if someone is giving you cruelty, it's not necessarily okay to match that. Like, if someone just wants to create art, and if it's not your thing, then it's not your thing, and that's fine. But to say such terrible things about someone else's art, like, who are you to judge
Yeah.
in that way?
It, the thing now that I've said this out loud for the first time in a long time. One thing that stands out to me is that if say go back to the lyrics thing, that was the thing that cut me the deepest. Um, Maybe my lyrics weren't good, and maybe they needed some improvement, but there's that pronouncement, you should never write songs, you're terrible. I
right.
will contrast that directly with a couple years ago. Uh, my friend Sean T, started playing drums for David Bazan and Pedro the Lion, and he started inviting me to shows when they played in Southern California. And I finally got to meet Dave. Well, again, meet Dave. It's been a while, and he's one of my favorite songwriters ever. The stuff that that
Mhm.
guy tackles in 3 minutes of music is it just hits me so hard. And so we talked for a long time, and it was really cool that he knew who I was. He's like, "Oh, you're the guitar guy that I follow on the Instagram or whatever." And he had a bunch of guitar questions, and then I had some for him, and I confessed to him. I was like, "I feel like lyrics are the hardest thing for me, and I don't know when I'm done. I don't know all of this." And instead of like saying, "Well, then maybe you shouldn't be writing songs," he went, "Oh, I know exactly what you need to do. You need to read this book that helped me. It's by this Berkeley educator, and you got to pick this thing up. I can't even remember the title right now, but he was like, you got to try that." He didn't like need to hear how bad my lyrics might be. He was like, "Hey, someone wants to get better. Here's how I did it,"
Yeah.
and shared his knowledge. Like there's a fundamental difference between completely ripping someone apart for no good reason and leaving space for someone who may not be the best songwriter in the world.
Yeah.
Like it's just basic human empathy and kindness. And Kay possessed none of that in that evening, and I don't know.
It
I
costs
mean,
nothing to be kind.
yeah,
Like, she doesn't have to, no one has to give up, all of their own resources and all of their emotional labor, but being kind to someone who just wants to be good and wants to do better and earnestly wants to work for something, it costs nothing. It should be the easiest thing in the world. Unless, like, the only reason to tear somebody down for no reason is to make yourself feel better. And how small you must be that that's how you feel bigger.
hmm, yeah,
Something that we talk about in the show quite a bit is this idea that we're all in this together, and that the best part of this community, the gear community, this music community, is that we all do stand up for each other in large pockets of this. And obvious, like, it's there's not enough pockets that do this, but I want to see everybody joining together. We're supposed to build each other up. I mean, that's just, nothing happens in a vacuum. No one develops that kind of joy and passion for just randomly.
yeah,
There's always more to it. And so there's, like, we want to nurture, like, that's the kind of thing that we want to nurture, that we love, that we're excited about. And talent or not, like, build someone up. I mean, that's just give them the tools that they need, or share what you can. We're all in this together. And that's something that I'm a firm believer in and very much committed to.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Mike, thank you so much for sharing that story. I think it's important for everyone to hear. I guess kind of as many stories as possible. Um, just because I know there are definitely other people who have experienced that exact same thing, and I want to say to those people listening, like, that's not right. If somebody said that to you, I don't need to hear your music to tell you that that person is wrong. Like, there's always something redemptive in art. Um, and if you don't want to take the time or energy to find it, then you shouldn't be critiquing it.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Indeed. Cheers.
Nice. Oh, that was solemn.
Yeah.
No, it was great.
How dare you?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure that wasn't I'm sure that wasn't easy, that kind of thing. It just says so much about how those things stick with you, and how, like, a moment of cruelty, like, you don't know what else is going on in someone's life.
Yeah.
What they've experienced, like, you don't know anybody. Like there's that quote, like, the heart of another is always a dark forest, no matter how close it has been to one's own.
Yeah.
That's Willa Cather. I Yeah, nerdy. But you don't know what's going on in someone's life. It means something that can be innocuous to you can really hurt somebody else. It's like going back to that whole idea of a trigger warning, or a content warning. Like, just because you don't think it's necessary doesn't mean it's not necessary. Like, to try to just err on the side of, like, helping out people. It takes so little effort in actuality to develop that kind of habit of just doing little things that can bring more good into the world instead of bad. And I don't want to be too preachy. I mean, I can be a bitch. I'm not gonna lie. I can be quick to get mad. I'm the first person to apologize. I'm the first person to say when I was wrong. And um, I think that doesn't make it okay, even when I go too far or when I express cruelty. But um, it's something I've been trying to work on my whole life, and I just hope that everyone can help hold me to that. I just, I want to be a better person. I want everyone to shoot for that too. Because being better, being good is hard, but being better is incremental. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I'm being stalked by my cat.
The other thing that I'm thinking about now that I've vocalized this whole really painful chapter, is that your quote about the heart as a forest, and it's unknowable no matter how close their forest is to yours. That applies to Kay as well. I don't harbor any, like, anger or resentment toward her. I don't wish her ill. And I also don't know what was going on for her. Like, there's a very real sense, as we're talking about this, as the whole Ryan Adams thing is playing out, that culturally there is a lot of gatekeeping that goes on in the music world. And who's to say that somebody didn't do that to her? She didn't have to, like, I don't know, pull herself up by the bootstraps and do all the right things, and then talk to the person in her scene who was the ringleader, the person that made or broke. I've never said it in the past.
In the past tense.
Right.
Yeah, that's
very weird.
Huh.
Very weird. The person who made or broke.
Yeah.
People in the scene. So I mean, it's a very real thing that happens. It's a very real part of the experience of musicians, and it shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to, think, as you said before, that that's the way it's always been. You don't have to defend real abuse by pointing out that you also went through that and you should just toughen up. Like it doesn't have to be like that. But maybe it was like that for Kay, and I don't know. I doubt I will ever run into her again. But I don't know where
I
I'm
doubt
going
she's
with that,
listening, but
but
if she is, like, I am
oh
curious to
boy.
hear her side of it, I guess. Like, what made you the way that you are?
Next week on Get Offset.
Why are you the way that you are?
Turn it into like a Gordon Ramsay style kitchen nightmares, guitar nightmares.
I love.
She calls in and it goes off the hook.
You should do voice work.
I did while I lived in Seattle, and I've been meaning to get back to it. It's just been crazy. Yeah, I did some video games in Seattle. Mostly like puzzles or casual games, but I would get called in to be the hero. Hello, like that guy who's sexy and strong, and he's like, "I've got you. I'll pull you up." That kind of stuff.
Was so good.
Or
Mike Adams, voiceover expert.
Hire me.
Or
one of my favorite roles that I've had. One of my favorite roles was a 7-foot tall anthropomorphic crow, who was like serving the antagonist of the video game, and he would swoop in and go, "My master is pleased." That kind of stuff. Love that stuff. Or I was a clockwork fairy once, a little fairy made of like brass gears, and she talked like this.
Oh man, come over here.
Well, I'm officially impressed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love that work.
Was it like at PopCap or something?
It was contracted out mainly. I didn't have to go to many recording studios at like developers, but there was a team that I was so graciously let on of like professional actors, and they invited me into their ranks and gave me weird bit parts, and it was the most fun thing ever.
That sounds so awesome.
It's super fun to go on YouTube and watch walkthroughs of some of those games and hear myself, and it's so weird. It's so weird, but I love the work. I love characters so much. Yeah. That's a little bit about me.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I gotta get back into that. You're right. I should do that.
Do it.
You should.
And before we get too far off the topic, real quick, I just wanted to say that the compassion that you have for all people involved in the situation that we've talked about today, including Kay, that's really admirable. I just wanted to call that out. That's super awesome.
Oh, thanks for pointing that out.
That's really hard.
That is not the characteristic of a beta, as I've heard casually thrown around on the internet way too often this month.
It is so gross to hear people say beta in the real world. I thought that only happened on message boards and Twitter. I've never heard someone say beta male out loud.
I have. And you just kind of look at them like, really?
Like, whoa.
I'm sorry, what?
Do people really say that in public and not get laughed out of the building?
They do. It's really strange. I don't know.
Gosh, I just want them to stop killing us.
Nothing about you having had the character and the strength to go and tell the story, and to at the end of it still say, "I wish no ill will." I mean, that takes a character that's not common.
Well, I've had,
as it should be.
What is it? 2019. I've had 15 years to think about it. 15 years. Oh my God, I'm so old.
Some people go their whole lives holding on to this kind of stuff.
Oh Lord, like I remember like people for my high school 10-year reunion, they made a Facebook group and they invited everybody, was like added to the Facebook group, and some dude goes on this enormous tirade about like someone who was kind of mean-ish to him in high school. I'm like, man, if you're still feeling that way about that, like, please get yourself some therapy. Like, you should talk to somebody about this because that's not healthy. That's not helpful.
And that's the moment when you untag yourself in that post.
You slowly
That's the
back away.
moment where you leave that group.
Another weird story. One of my greatest nemesis in school contacted me back in 2012, and it was so weird to hear from him. This is a guy who beat me up a lot. I remember one time I was just walking in the playground minding my own business, and he swung from like a monkey bars, I think we called them. He swung from that and kicked me in the face. And
What?
this guy terrorized me. And he reached out to me in 2012 and was like, "Hey, if you're ever back in your hometown, I'd love to hang out and grab a beer." And I don't know what possessed me to say yes to that, but I was about to go home and I was like, "All right, let's go to this bar I like." And he was like, "Cool, I'll meet you there." And I walk in and there he is, looking honestly like just as good as he did in high school. Like that dude was cut and an Adonis. Just a beautiful man. So it was nice to see that he held up. So I get there, grab a beer, and he sits me down and he goes, "Hey, I've been thinking about this since high school. I'm so sorry for how I treated you, and especially that time I kicked you in the face. I think about that every day."
Oh, man, that
And
must not have been easy for him.
it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
it was this incredible moment where he explained, he was like, "You don't have to forgive me, but here's what was going on. This is why I was a jerk to you all those years, and I am sorry. I don't deserve uh forgiveness for this, but that's me." And now we talk once in a while.
Oh.
If that's not the weirdest thing. It's
Yeah, I mean, like, hurt people, and kids are awful and all that, but you
yeah.
turn into adults and you look back. I mean, I've had some people who just terrorized me in, like, middle school, like, serious sexual harassment stuff,
Oh,
and they reached out to me, like, years later, like, on Facebook or whatever, and I would just respond, "Thanks for saying that. Please just don't message me again."
yeah.
Which
We
is
Yeah,
had our
also
moment,
totally
and
alright.
that's
I've done
done.
that I did that to someone before.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was just terrible experience, and they reached out a couple years later, and I'm so sorry. I've realized that why I was doing these things, and I'm so sorry. Is there any way I can make it up to you? And I
Eh,
want to try. I want to give it a redo. Let's be friends again. I was like,
Oh,
thanks, but no
I
thanks.
appreciate it.
yeah.
Honestly, I'm not at a point in my life where I feel like I have the capacity to try and build a new friendship with you at this point. And I don't know, that ship's kind of sailed, but I'm sorry. I'm in a different place in life. And so
There's just the
Yeah.
I
point
don't,
where you're like, it's like it doesn't make sense to like why we don't need to have a relationship now. Like when we were kids or whatever, we were in the same school, so we were forced together, but we're adults now. Like there's no reason for it. And that's like I don't know. I feel that way about some family members who have reached out to me in adulthood. I'm like, well, this is not the time to try. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
I'm just not interested, and it might sound cold, but I think that's another part of self-care. For everyone's self-care is different.
Mhm.
For some people, it might be like, yeah, sure, let's talk it out and have a good relationship or at least some sort of relationship. For me, it's like I've had to have those practices of just breaking up with friends because
Mhm.
it wasn't healthy. And sometimes I go back later and I can rekindle that and we're stronger than ever. And it's like we never stop talking. And then others, it's like, I just don't, I don't need it. And I don't think they need it. And it doesn't feel necessary.
Yeah. It's
and there's no
perfectly fine
reason
to
to,
not go backward. It's
and you
perfectly
Yeah.
don't have
fine.
to justify you needing to take care of your basic emotional, holistic needs. That's just something that we don't need to. We shouldn't have to apologize or justify as humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like my college person who with the music and stuff, I don't wish him ill will. I don't want his life to be destroyed. Um, we were young, and I don't fully think that he knew what he was doing, but I also don't feel the need to ever reach out to him again. He has his life. He's married. He has a kid, and that's great. Fine. I have my life. I'm married and have my cat. I'm happy. I hope he's happy. I've moved past, some of what happened. I can't get back, what could have been, but I don't think it matters because I am where I am and I feel very comfortable with that. Like any other change in the road wouldn't have led me to where I am right now.
Right. So, well, I think we should maybe wrap things up a little bit.
Yes.
All right.
I'm enjoying this conversation. We're gonna wrap up the episode, and I'm sure we're gonna talk for a little bit longer after we finish recording. But this has been an episode of the most excellent order.
It has, and Mike, I hope that you come back and we can talk about just joyous things.
Yay! Next time we'll talk about nice things that are fluffy.
We'll talk about theme park deaths.
Oh my gosh. Let's do an odd jobs episode. I used to your death count made me think of I used to work at a casket factory.
What?
Yeah, York Casket.
I'm pretty sure I just clipped there, but what?
Yeah, you probably did, but it's worth it. It's worth clipping for that. Yeah. It's oddly enough, that's where I learned some of my woodworking skills. And it's the weirdest job I've ever had, or maybe
you
not.
start making coffin cases for guitars.
Ew! Speaking of booth babes, oh, that booth at NAMM is always the worst, and there's a line of weird dudes just waiting to take pictures with these like 6-foot tall goth women.
Oh no, it's not even what I was thinking about. I was thinking about like the old Martin style coffin guitar cases.
Oh, that would have been better. No, my mind immediately goes to coffin case company.
Yeah, that's where my mind went to as well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you're not alone.
No, the Martin coffin cases are wonderful, and there's nothing seedy about them at all.
You could even say they're killer.
They're killer.
They're killer.
They're killer, bro.
Oh my god.
Bruh.
So righteous.
So righteous.
Well, to everyone out there listening, thanks for listening and thanks for understanding. Once again, I'm Emily.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Mike. I took a sip of my beer. I'm so sorry.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, goodbye.
Bye.